Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cornyn. Farmers have to be optimists. I don't know how you would survive otherwise. We should be too. I would take that as a charge from Senator Cornyn and accept it. Senator Blumenthal?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. My grandfather was a farmer and not always optimistic because he had to deal with many of the obstacles that have been described here, the weather, the markets, and the need for people to work for him. And he was a farmer in Nebraska. He raised corn and cattle on a farm just south of Omaha, Nebraska. But I do think, in the interest of being constructive, to use my colleague's term, we can replicate the kind of process that we had in 2013 when we passed in this committee. I was proud to be a part of it, a bipartisan effort, comprehensive in dealing with many of these issues. I think it's not only possible, it's obligatory at this moment in our history. So I would like to work with you, Mr. Chairman, and the ranking member in this effort. I have supported the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, which would expand the H-2A program by permitting year-round contracts. And in our state, dairy farmers and produce farmers are desperately in need of this additional workforce. But right now, this system, as the senator from Texas said so well, is broken in fundamental and disastrous ways. One effect is not only on the prices of commodities for consumers, but also the human toll on workers, particularly in illegal trafficking. And I want to expand on the questions asked by Senator Klobuchar to you, Ms. Torres, dealing with the issue of trafficking. I know that your response to her was that one solution would be to include H-2A workers in the Migrant and Seasonal Agricultural Worker Protection Act, which would give them remedies and rights. My fear is that they would be reluctant in seeking to enforce those rights. They would be intimidated by a system. Perhaps there would be private efforts to aid them. But isn't the issue of enforcement fundamental, even now, to preventing the illegal recruitment fees and other measures that are right now a violation of law under our current statutes? Don't we need more aggressive enforcement by the Department of Labor?
That would be a resounding yes. We do. We definitely need more increased DOL enforcement. I think just you mentioned workers coming forth, even when they do have rights, right? That worker representation is also helpful, right? Organizations that work directly with workers that can develop the trust, like unions, for example. It's important for workers to understand what their rights are. We're talking about very vulnerable workers who sometimes don't know how to read and write even. I mentioned the indigenous workers that I've met with in Georgia. So it's important to understand that sometimes even the rights that workers do have aren't always, the workers will say that the laws on the books are not the laws in the fields. And so it's really important that workers understand what is available to them. And I also want to just say that, any legalization program would be undermined if we just move forward with H-2A enforcement, H-2A changes in isolation. So, any type of policy really has to be something that is addressing undocumented workers here and that is addressing the H-2A worker protections that are needed.
I would suspect, and I think you would agree, that the kinds of abuses that are documented in the Polaris Project, in Operation Blooming Onion, you refer to them in your testimony, are much more widespread. And I agree with you that it has to be more than just one piece of this framework to prevent illegal trafficking, wage theft, other abuses, there has to be a comprehensive approach. Would you agree?
I would definitely agree. Yes.
My time has expired. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.